From MZ Studios in Dallas, Texas, you're listening to the Tennis Revolution podcast.
The prodigal son has returned.
I know everybody missed me so much.
Oh, I was talking about me from last week. I thought you'd quit. I was hoping. And I heard you walking down the hall. I was like, you're back.
When I tuned in, I was like, this show really needs me.
Listen, here's the deal. You told me before we started recording that this is the first show you've listened to. Last week's show is the first one you listened to, and you don't know how long. And there's two variables. One is you didn't have to hear me the first time, so you just were either dying to know what was going on, or our guest was the other variable. I'm assuming it was her that you wanted to tune in for.
Well, I hear the show live every week. I don't need to listen to it. This show I didn't hear, so I wanted to see what I missed. And I knew there was nothing to talk about in the tennis world again.
A little bit.
So I was curious to see how you made that work.
I tried to get into some issues. It got a little dicey. I don't know if I came off like I wanted to, but you know what? Who cares?
There was a lot of, let me explain that a little more.
Maybe.
But I think that's every week, so we're used to that.
Yeah, I mean, basically the whole show was...
You play ball like a girl!
Yeah, it didn't go well. I felt very uncomfortable. I knew what I meant, and I know I'm right, but explaining it to somebody and then have them question you after you explain it, not ideal.
You're like, I didn't know there was going to be a follow-up question to my idea.
Yeah, either Corey's extremely agreeable or extreme sexist, one or the other.
Well, and she didn't disagree with anything you said necessarily, but it was like, I'll have to think about that more before I just blindly agree with you like I do.
Well, because your intellect is at such a high level.
That's right.
That you
of course, I get it immediately,
instantly, and there's no reason to really hash out issues. I do think she can agree with me. I just don't think she can.
Right.
Or she does. She just can't in public because it doesn't sound like a good idea, even though there's nothing wrong with the thought.
And what was weird was last week's episode like 3-4 hours. It sounded really long.
Was it?
Just kidding. It flies by when I'm in here.
It does.
Listening to it.
It does.
A little longer.
Yeah,
I'm related to the fans.
Yeah, so by all means, go back and listen to I don't even know what episode it was, the pre-New Year.
We're almost to episode 100. Can you believe that? We're going to have a special show.
I don't know if either I didn't think we would make it or I hoped we would make it. I don't know which.
Well, and does that count your single episodes? I'm sure it does.
I don't think so.
Have we done that many together?
Well, here's the thing. I switched over to this new storage and whatever hosting site at some point, and I think the very first episode includes you.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well, that's how it should be. I mean,
seems like forever, but then again, it doesn't.
That's right.
We've made absolutely zero progress. We've changed nothing in tennis.
No,
which is not.
They haven't listened to us.
Good. Holy hell! One thing that we can say is moving forward, and if any of you have not caught up on the day one of the NFL playoffs, turn off your radio immediately. Because in lieu of buying and wearing a jersey in your honor today, all I can say is, how about them Cowboys? Makes me sick to my stomach.
It was a great night in Dallas. So you'll appreciate this because you know how much I have to suffer every week trying to avoid things. Well, as usual, I recorded the game, didn't watch it live. And I was walking my dog at 10 p.m. and I started hearing like hooting and hollering, which that was about the time that I think it was into the fourth quarter. And I grabbed my dog, ran inside, and I said, we got to start this game because somebody's going to ruin something. I said, it's got to be dramatic because I'm hearing hooting and hollering, and it's not quite over, but it's got to be close to the end. So it wasn't like cheering enough to for them to have won.
Right.
But it was
like
enough,
a big play or something.
Right.
Right.
Which, looking back, it was probably Dak Prescott's, legendary run. When they go on to win the Super Bowl, it'll be because of that run.
Well, one thing I'll say about Dak.
This cat can ball, man.
That's not true. He can't. He's overrated, and I saw somewhere on Twitter that said, well, nobody should talk bad about Dak now. Well, shut up. He'll do something dumb next week when they get destroyed by the Saints. Is that right? They're playing the Saints?
Well, we don't know yet. It depends on what the game's going on right now, which I've not
that's
watched.
right. They reseed. Reseed.
But it could, I'm a big Romo
and by the
fan.
way, I literally have no idea. I don't know anything. I just, in my mind, I thought that's what the seedings played out, but I forgot they reseed. See, I've been the 1 seed and the 2 seed for so long as a Steelers fan that I don't worry about any of that.
What seed were they this year? I forgot.
Listen,
I don't get a chance to do that very often, so I have to take the one opportunity.
The Steelers are going to get to 7 Super Bowls before the Dallas Cowboys get to 6. That's all I know.
They might, before the Cowboys get to any more, they might get to 10.
Unbelievable.
But no, it was exciting for people to actually be talking about football in Dallas in January, which hasn't happened in recent years. Even though they've made it.
Super Bowl was hosted here. Was the last time.
And the fact that they won a game. But what's sad is they won one game, and you would think that they won the Super Bowl here. I mean, it's like here. But I think it's going to last about 6 more days, and then.
Well, I mean, who are the 1 and 2 seeds in the NFC?
Oh, it's the Rams or the Saints.
Oh, yeah, you're getting murdered.
And they beat the Saints, but that was in Dallas, and now the Saints are ready for the way they play.
Dallas beats the Super Bowl champs every year, just not in the Super Bowl.
Not when they need to.
Right. So anyway, who cares? Football sucks, and I'm never talking about it again until next season, even on a tennis podcast. So,
I did watch a little tennis.
One last time in your honor.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That was in honor of the awful team you played.
Does that burn you having that? Like, to me, it burns me having the terrible towel. Like, I just hate that. And the Cowboys tried to copy it like every other team does in the game yesterday. But does it burn you having that one, like, audio clip that's so famous about the Cowboys?
Oh.
You don't care?
No. That one doesn't bother me.
Okay. I just think
that's a natural, organic, in the moment when they were about to go to their first Super Bowl. Did you record? Have you watched the first Super Bowl in '92 yet? I don't want to ruin it. I
barely remember it. 52-17. Leon Lett should have been 59.
Unbelievable.
But
Don Beebe.
Yeah, exactly. Should have been the highest score by any team in the Super Bowl, but ruined by Leon Lett.
So anyway, no, it was a natural, organic kind of situation, whereas America's team's fraudulent. That's the thing that bothers me. Not because I care, because I'll take more Super Bowls any day of the week. It's just, it's a fraud. It didn't even come from your own. It came from John Facenda, the voice.
But I was going to say, is it fraudulent now, or has it always been fraudulent?
It was fraudulent from Jump Street. Okay. You all of a sudden claimed it. It's like seeing a commercial and all of a sudden, oh, that's what they said about us? Oh, that's us. We're that. We're that. Let us be that. It's like giving yourself a nickname. Shut up.
Well, and I think the reasoning behind that they always use is that, it's the most watched team. Like this year, the most watched game was the Cowboys and Redskins. Well, most watched doesn't mean most liked. A lot of people watch because they want them to lose.
Right. The only reason it even got said in the first place was because you had a veteran, from the Air Force Academy and the Air Force at quarterback.
Right. Which is certainly not why they drafted him.
But listen, they also had a Vietnam veteran playing for the Steelers, and he played with shrapnel in his foot.
There you go.
For a season.
Yeah, I think it's...
Rocky Bleier, nothing?
It definitely sounds silly to use that name now. Like, I've never called them that, and even saying it now seems even more ridiculous than it used to be. In the 90s, you could understand it because they were really good and really popular.
Well, in that case, the Patriots are America's team.
Well, that's what I would say. If you had to say one now, I would say it's them.
Yeah, but they still don't garner the fandom that the Steelers and the Cowboys do.
No.
I mean, I think the Cowboys and Steelers are probably the two most popular teams.
Yeah, probably. I mean, maybe the Bears just because they've been around so long, but they haven't had enough success in the last 20 years.
No team that has been or ever will be or is currently in L.A. will be one of the most popular teams ever.
Yeah,
all right. So, tennis podcast, is this what we're talking about today? Is that what we're going to
It is January.
Yeah, but there was a bunch of action on. A bunch of action. Some say the last Hopman Cup.
Oh, really?
Well, the ATP Cup or whatever the hell that thing's called is going to be coming in and more competition. So I don't know.
Is it going to be the same weekend?
I don't know. There's just a lot of speculation from people that seem to do research on tennis and do stuff on tennis that seem to think this might be it's not been said, but all indications are that this might be the last one.
Well, and I know you're not a big fan of mixed doubles, but I do like that they did something different with that event. Like it's men's singles, women's singles, and mixed doubles. It gives you something a little different.
It's weird that they copy World Team Tennis.
And it's non-elimination. So, like they were talking about, I watched Kerber and Bencic, a little bit of that match, and they were talking about how Kerber went 4-0 this week, and I thought, well, yeah, anybody who wins the last day goes 4-0.
Well,
and then I was like, oh, wait, they play 4 no matter what,
well,
or 3.
We can go ahead and cancel the 2019 tennis season, men's and women's, completely, because we've been to the mountaintop. We've been to the pinnacle. Federer and Serena were on the same court. That's all we
the
ever
two
wanted.
greatest players in the history of the world.
I need a snoring effect because I don't like doing it myself.
And Federer couldn't handle her serve the first 2 points. Didn't you read that?
Oh, yeah. It's unreadable. Yours is too.
Yeah.
Shut up.
And then the selfie stick. Like, was this 2005? Like, I didn't know the selfie stick still existed, but he's got to take the selfie.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I did not watch that match. I did not care to watch that match.
You're the worst.
And it's funny. It's just funny to me the things that draw attention in tennis are the things that I just don't care about at all.
Well, it's like we've talked about on a smaller, not on a smaller scale, but sort of on the tour scale, having to do with either the men's, that they're really pushing this stardom, this star power quality of Federer, Nadal, to a dramatically lesser degree, Djokovic. And if that's all they're hanging their hat on, we're in big trouble. Well, this is even worse because it's not real. It's never going to happen in any legitimate way. And if it did, it'd be even more ridiculous to have the greatest woman of all time and the greatest tennis player of all time on the same court at the same time, quote unquote, playing each other.
Right.
And one of the ads or one of the things on Twitter, it just had their pictures, and I'm like, but they're playing doubles.
I know.
What do you?
And I don't know if we talked about this 2 weeks ago, but I think I had heard leading up to that they were going to play each other. Didn't say anything about doubles.
Right.
It just said Federer is playing Serena. I thought,
right.
I was shocked, first of all, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that's actually happening. Well, then it's like you said, that was their false sort of promotion. Well,
and Federer did with his racket on the down low what Andy Murray does every time he gets his dumb face in front of a mic. He virtue signaled by not just slapping winners every time Serena hit a ball to him.
Right.
I couldn't read her serve. So what?
Yeah.
So what? At top speed, it's 120.
Right.
That's a men's second serve.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And I'm not saying, and you and I are not saying that she can't hit serves that he can't return.
Right.
But, it's doubles of any kind. The serving team's going to have a huge advantage in doubles regardless. Yeah, I didn't.
Let me tell you who I saw play some dubs. Taylor Townsend played some dubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was playing in, I don't know what she's in, Shenzhen?
She's sort of resurfaced a little bit this year.
Yeah.
2018, I noticed she was starting to come around again. I don't know if her ranking's been up or she was injured or what, but I started to see her name a lot more.
Well, there's 19 tournaments going on all at the same time because
all on one channel.
There's literally no lead up to the Australian Open. It's like you wake up on Christmas morning, you open presents, and then you're in the Australian Open. That's what it feels like.
And they have like 6 tournaments in one 100-mile radius.
That too, except for Doha.
And then they said Kerber plays 8 matches, and she's going to go play Sydney that starts probably today or tomorrow, and then play the Australian that starts a week from today.
So, yeah, I think she was in Shenzhen. Let me look at the doubles draws. But, yeah, so she was playing some ball. She looked good. Now, I don't know if they won. I don't even know if this is the right tournament. Maybe it was a Futures or something, a Challenger. I have no idea. But
well, I think her ranking is at least good enough to get into slams now. Did you see who got the Australian Open wild card from America? Take a guess. Men's.
Nope.
Jack Sock.
Nope. It's a bad. It's not true.
You knew they had. Now I don't know if he won the qualifying tournament or whatever. Maybe he did, but I guess he had to have because I know they always have one. But I know he was the American. He was the only American wildcard that I saw. Maybe there were 2, but I know he was one of the ones that got it.
What? Taylor Townsend. They lost to Bouchard and Kennan in the finals, the women's doubles finals in Auckland.
Oh, Kennan is American, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bouchard has. So here's some people that have kind of resurfaced, and I'm hoping it all works out. Nishikori looked good. He just won.
Yeah.
In singles. Obviously in singles. I don't know why I said that. So he beat Daniil Medvedev. Russian collusion. And in 3, but still, he held it together. And then Bouchard is back. And looked pretty good, I thought.
No, yeah, I saw some of her, and it's kind of like you want to hope these tournaments mean something and people build on them, but it's always hard to say because there's always that balance of, do they play too much lead up tennis going into the slam, or did they play not enough? And that's probably when you sign up for a tournament. You don't know if you're going to lose first, second round, or you're going to go all the way. That's why I think these tournaments like Hopman, where you have guaranteed matches, are what the players are starting to gravitate towards.
Yeah, because you know what to expect. It's like preseason.
Like the Boodles, they want 3 matches guaranteed, 4 matches. Fighting. That's going to be. It'll be interesting to see if the bigger names start to gravitate towards those instead of the traditional warm-up tournaments.
Which would be a shame, honestly. Another shame, Maria Sharapova. She had to retire against Sabalenka. And who knows why.
And Osaka did too, right?
Yeah. Osaka didn't look great.
Yeah, I mean, again, are they retiring so they'll be better at the Australian, or are they retiring because they can't play? They couldn't finish. That's what we don't really know. But either way, it's not encouraging.
Yeah, but Osaka didn't look good at all. So who knows?
There's definitely, and that's what I heard you guys talk about last week, there's definitely a lot more intrigue going into the women's season than there is in the men's. The men's, I totally agree with what you said about all their eggs being in one basket with the big 3, and once those are gone, and including Serena in that too, it's just they've left us with no one else to root for. And I'm not saying they shouldn't hype up Federer versus Serena. That's a tournament decision. They've got to get eyeballs and butts and seats, but there's got to be something up and coming.
Well, listen, I don't market entertainment for a living. I don't have to sell tickets to anything, all that kind of stuff. So people that do that for a living, they know what they're doing theoretically. And honestly, maybe our game is a dumb game and we shouldn't even be involved in this industry. And the only thing that matters is hanging on to these, world famous celebrities. And that's all that really matters. Or maybe these people aren't bigger than the game and we need to get back to pushing, what it means to build up to a major and to win a major, and then switch surfaces, play a different major, in the season of tennis, as it were, or these tournaments. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but that's the question that we talked about last week with Blair. Is that can women's tennis carry tennis in the absence of the big 3 when they retire? Because right now, I don't care about Zverev. He just got his ass kicked again by Federer. It's a Hopman Cup, whatever. But they seem to be trying.
Yeah.
And he got beat 4-2. And 6-4. That seems like a close set, but not if you had no danger on your own serve the whole time.
Right.
It's routine.
Well, and how does he go into any significant match with Federer with confidence after that? Especially in a 3 out of 5 setting where he's never beaten anybody really of consequence.
Right.
But I mean, I would rather have seen, just for the sake of growing the game, it would have been better to see Federer and Serena versus, Tsitsipas and, some up and coming female player. So put Federer and Serena on the same team, and then we see, okay, this is the present,
some
or
youngsters
fading, present versus the future, and then we have somebody to follow, later on. Having Tiafoe and Bencic in that was point. I mean, Bencic is young and kind of up and coming, but it was a little bit pointless to see those two. That they think Tiafoe's up and coming, but I don't.
Right. Right.
And again, seeing them against each other, it was just for the Federer Serena deal. Nothing else mattered.
Yeah. So on the men's side, we had Brisbane, or Brisbane, is if you're American, just reading it. Brisbane. Nishikori wins that, and he hadn't won a title in a minute.
Was it New York Open? Was that the last?
Maybe.
And that was like maybe almost a full year ago. I think that was in February, maybe.
Nope. 3 years after capturing his 11th tour level title in Memphis.
Man, so the New York Open must not, maybe it was too low to count, or maybe he lost in the finals. I thought he won it. Because he won the Challenger here, but that obviously is not tour level.
Right. So Nishikori ends his streak. And again, like we talked about, part of the reason this is the weakest era in the history of men's tennis, undeniable, is guys like Nishikori and Del Potro can't stay healthy.
Right.
So now you got a guy like Nishikori who theoretically could push the big three, and he's, been on and off so much that you can't expect, I don't have a problem with his losing streak because he's been so banged up. You can't get any rhythm, you can't get confidence, you can't get anything if you're just stop and start. So,
but if we had Murray, like you said, if we had Murray, Wawrinka, Nishikori, Del Potro, and Cilic in every slam,
100% healthy, we would have had great tennis the last 5 to 8 years. If assuming they were playing up to their levels, what I mean. Yeah.
But that has never happened. We're lucky if we get 2 of them, playing at their highest level.
That makes a difference. That might.
So part of it is their absence. But even when they're there, what we've complained about is when some of the big three aren't there and those guys are, they don't do anything with that opportunity.
Right. Only the one of the big three that's there wins.
Right, which tells you that it's, they're not superior to the other dregs that are in their same, ranking area, that 5 to 20 range.
Or maybe they are, but they can be got by the people lower.
Yeah.
They maybe can get a little bit of the big three, but not consistently enough. So anyway, yeah, so that does make a big difference, and I think it would be less glaring if all of those guys were healthy all of the time. Not all the time is a bit much, but more consistently.
Did you like the fact that there were so many tournaments on at once that you could? Okay, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, the only good thing about it was that you could watch live tennis pretty much any time of day.
Well, almost. Yeah, I mean,
but it had to be. But you didn't know if it was going to be good or not.
That too, which I don't care about. I don't care about knowing. Because if I'm going to be consistent, I don't care about watching stars.
Right.
I want to watch 2 people compete at their highest level, which is still a very good level of tennis. It's not like it's bad tennis if it's not the big three.
Well, that's what I'm saying is good. They never do this, but what would be good about having multiple tournaments on at once is if something sucks, they could turn to something else.
Right.
They're going to show Federer no matter what. They're going to show Serena no matter what. They're going to show, those matches regardless of the quality or the score. But it would have been nice. Like that Kerber-Bencic match was great. Second set was tie break, and it was back and forth and real interesting, and it made them have to play the mixed doubles for the final, so that was interesting. But like that Federer-Zverev sounds like a snooze, but they, of course, are going to show that all the way through, no matter what.
Obviously. So we've got Pliskova wins also in Brisbane.
I feel like she's already peaked. It maybe sounds bad to say that, but I don't think she kind of had her little moment of number 1 in the world, and I don't think anybody's too threatened by her anymore.
Maybe. Who knows? It's why you say that, and you're in way more danger on the women's side by saying that, because anybody who has done it is a threat, and there's some that haven't done it that are a threat. So it's really a wild scene out there on the women's side.
I know. Well, what I mean is I don't see her as ever becoming a dominant number 1. But again, I could probably almost list everybody in that category as probably never going to be a dominant number 1. I don't know that women's tennis will have a dominant number 1 in the next 10 years. Kerber was the closest besides Serena.
Including Serena?
Well, she won't ever be a dominant number 1 ranking-wise because she won't play enough tournaments. She could be dominant in terms of her record. But she won't play. I mean, this was her first tournament she played since U.S. Open, so she'll at most play 15 tournaments this year. If she won 10 of those, she still wouldn't be, well, that 10 would be a lot, but if she won half, she would still not be have a huge edge being number 1, because Halep's going to play 25 tournaments and win 5 and make the finals of 5 others.
Well, yeah. So Sabalenka wins in Shenzhen. Does that matter?
Did Sharapova start that match or no?
Yes.
Because they delayed it a day for rain.
She lost the first set, a tight 6-1.
Wow.
And then retired down 4-2 in the second.
Okay. Well, Sabalenka's supposed to be an up-and-comer, right?
Sure. Huge, big hitter.
Yeah. So that.
But I'm always leery of big hitters everywhere but also on the women's side, because I know, here we go. I've got no woman to contradict me, so I'm going to win. Well, the reason I say that is because, oh God, where do you start? Physically, the ball is not going to travel as fast off a woman's racket as a man's. So big hitter on the men's side, there's more upside for going for bigger shots because,
right.
On the women's side.
But Coach, Madison Keys has the fastest average ground stroke of any player, male or female.
I don't understand that. I don't understand how that.
That's average. That's why.
Oh,
she hits everyone hard, but she doesn't. She's 10 or 15 off the max pace of
a guy. I
would assume.
But and it's hard for you to get a quality stat because she makes 2 balls in a row.
Right.
But anyway, so that upside of hitting big is greater on the men's side because you can swing faster. Ultimately, more racket head speed, which means more spin, which means more shots having a chance of going. But when they do go in, they're more forcing. And women can cover the court really well. Better, I think, relative. So a woman's court coverage is better relative to big hitters in her game than a men's court coverage is relative to bigger hitters in the men's game. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And don't you also think there's way more...
Did any of that just make sense?
Oh, it did.
I don't know if it made sense to me.
No, it did. I know what you're saying. But I think there's also way more defensive players on the WTA Tour than there are offensive. Defense on the men's.
Because it pays better dividends.
Right.
It pays better dividends because less women can hit through players. And so...
Well, they even grew up playing that because you watch, even at the junior level, there's way more defensive... I don't want to say moonballers, but that style of play works way better, and it's a lot more prevalent.
Right.
So they carry that over to the tour. I mean, Wozniacki's a defensive player. Nobody that plays like Wozniacki would be in the top 50 on the men's tour. It just wouldn't work. That style of high, loopy top spin and wait for them to make a mistake.
Right. No, and to be fair, I mean, men are taller on average, so the ball didn't get up on them as much.
I mean, Ferrer, I guess, could be considered that, and he was top 10 forever, but...
Well, anyway, my point, I don't know what my point was. Yeah. So watching big hitters, so everybody's all hyped up about, Sabalenka, but, that comes with a danger. Because you're going to have some streaks where you can power through 3 or 4 players at the tail end of a Grand Slam tournament, and then boom, you're the winner.
Right.
But then you can immediately go away and play like crap and have, no rhythm, have a bunch of unforced errors, and don't beat anybody like, Muguruza.
Right.
I'm just going to call her Muguruza. I'm done with that. I don't speak Spanish. I don't understand. So it's a Z, so I'm just saying it as a Z because I feel like an idiot when I try to pronounce another language. So anyway, Sabalenka, so it'll be interesting to watch how she does coming up in Australia.
When you notice those players you only see on fast serve, like Kvitova won 2 Wimbledons, but what else did she win? Nothing. Same with Key. She made a U.S. Open final, but we haven't seen those big hitters be able to translate to multiple surfaces. It's been Halep, it's been Kerber, Serena. Serena's a big hitter, but she does a lot more than just hit big.
Right.
But those are the players that have had success on multiple surfaces. So she'll probably have to add some more to her game if she's going to reach that level of success.
So this is not a quiz, it's not a test, but who won the doubles in Auckland? It's okay to say I don't know.
I was going to say I have no clue.
Well, it was Bouchard and Kenin.
Okay.
Who won the doubles in Shenzhen? You don't know. It's okay.
No.
Peng and Yang. I'm not kidding. Peng and Yang. Now, the reason you don't know is because it doesn't matter. Because nobody cares about doubles.
I was amazed you even saw Taylor Townsend in doubles.
Wait a minute. Do you think Fast 4 is the answer to fix that? The answer is no!
Yeah, I was going to say no.
Did you see any of how much doubles did you watch of the Hopman Cup?
Yeah, I saw enough to know that it was Fast 4.
It turned me off immediately.
Well, and especially when it not only is it Fast 4, it's also the deciding part of the match. So you made the deciding part the most erratic and, whatever word I'm looking for, but crappy. I was going to say the other word for crappy, but
getting brave.
Having that be the end of a head-to-head matchup between two countries seems ridiculous to me.
And it's not between two countries. Nobody cares.
Well, I know. I had to hesitate when I was watching. They kept saying the score, and I couldn't understand. I was like, what are they saying? And then I was like, oh, it's Germany. They were saying the country instead of the players' names.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I forget this is supposed to be country versus country. Like it matters.
No, it doesn't at all. Nobody cares. But yeah, so the Fast Four is garbage. And we've talked about this in the past with, I guess, adult, like amateur adult stuff. And it just sucks. To
me, I actually think it devalues doubles even more by using that format.
Oh, yeah. Everything they do devalues doubles. They don't care about doubles.
But the problem is, what do you do if it accomplishes two things, which is one, gets higher profile names to play, and two, gets more people to watch? Then how do you justify not doing it? I'm not saying that happened, but if those two things happened, I don't know how you would justify not.
So one thing that lower level pro tournaments do, so like I'm talking about the challenger level, what they do is they have a pro-am prior to the event.
Right.
And so
it helps subsidize the event.
And to be honest with you, helps subsidize some of the players. I mean, because you can get some of these lower level players that'll still beat anyone that plays in the pro-am, but they're still not making any money.
Right.
And so you give them some change, and then then the tournament gets some, and local people, league players, et cetera, get to play with professional players, and then 5 years from now they get to see them at Wimbledon and say, hey, I was played against that person. So they're a wonderful, wonderful event, but nobody cares about them.
Right.
There's no difference to me between if they just switched all of the Grand Slam doubles to Fast Four, then it's just an exhibition.
Yeah.
And why, I don't know. I almost think you've talked about this on this pod, that we just need to have two separate seasons, a single season or a double season.
Well, and in the Grand Slam, even if you did Fast Four, you're still not going to get Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. I mean, I don't know how you would almost have to play the doubles. This sounds terrible. This devalues doubles even more. But you'd almost have to say the doubles starts the second Monday of the tournament, and it's like a sign-in draw. And then if somebody loses early, maybe they'll sign up and play. Like Djokovic loses the second round.
There's no way
he'll sign up and play
in the second round.
Well, I know that hasn't happened in
no chance
5 years, but I just don't know. I don't know how you get them to play in doubles unless you just say to play singles you have to sign up for doubles. But that would screw all the doubles players that have earned the right to play.
But they haven't.
Well,
I mean, you would be number one in the world if 7 billion people quit playing tennis.
Right.
So does that mean you deserve to be number one? I guess technically you do, but you're not good enough. There's way better tennis players in this room.
Yeah.
Than
I don't know what they can do. And the thing is, I don't even think doubles is unpopular. I just think it's not. They don't give it a chance. And it's like, who would want to watch Ying and Ping again? I don't know who they beat. But that's not a match anybody wants to watch. But part of the reason we don't want to watch it is we don't know those players from any other tournaments that we could have seen them. They could be the number 3 team in the world. We don't even know.
Right. Yeah. So Fast Four. Here's what's extremely telling is that you have an event that seems to be fairly popular with players. They have a good time going down there. I mean, the number one player in all time of history, Pete Sampras. Is playing in it, quote unquote representing his country,
right?
And then then you make it doubles a joke, even though the Hopman Cup itself is an exhibition,
right?
So then you make doubles, which is part of the exhibition, even more exhibition-y,
right?
So it's like an exhibition within an. It's like the Matrix. I mean, you got a match inside a match.
Well, Australia. They must have some body similar to the USTA because they're pushing that format and like everything in Australia, not just professional. They're doing like all their club stuff, like because that's where it started. That Fast Four is an Australian thing. Hewitt was the one that promoted it last year. That's when I first heard about it, and so they're trying to translate it. So that must be part of the reason is, look, the pros are doing it, so we can do it in our, club, 8 Australian Tennis Association leagues or whatever they do there.
Houston, we have a problem.
I'm telling you. I mean, things like that are going to be the downfall of this game. It's that simple. I mean, nobody cares about wrestling or boxing or horse racing. Those used to be ginormous sports.
Right.
Ginormous sports. And now nobody cares about them. And now, granted, I don't know how the rest of the world cared about those sports. I'm talking about here, but nobody cares anymore. And people just, I guess, just think, wow, there's no way that could ever happen. That's insane. Why not? Why not? Lacrosse is eclipsing tennis in popularity, for Pete's sakes. in America, once again. So, anyway.
By the way, that clip you played, that's not what they actually said to Houston when they had that issue happen?
What did they say?
They said, Houston, we've had a problem. So that's one of the most famous quotes in the world, and it's false.
I thought
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
I thought, I can't even say it because I don't know what games you've watched. Golly.
Not the one that's playing right now.
You're the worst. I don't know which one. Are the Texans playing now? When did they play?
That was yesterday.
Did you watch that one?
I did. Okay. It was awful.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know how they made the playoffs based on that game.
They took the spot from the Steelers, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of tournaments, and all the finals were on at the same time. It was mayhem. You never knew which tournament was going on, and yeah.
Well, and that's what we've talked about, watching tournaments as the week goes on, and you look forward to players meeting each other, playing each other, and then you realize they're not because they're not in the same event. Again, the only good thing about it is, number one, we have a lot of options, and two, you don't see the same matches coming up in the Australian that you would see this week if everybody was in the same draw. But I mean, how often would that happen anyway? I think it's just. I think there was literally 5 events this week on one channel. I mean, that was and the tennis channel promoted that like that was a cool thing.
Well, I mean, it's cool for them. I mean, they're bouncing around and all that, but all it does. So here's the reason why, though, because the U.S. Open Series is however many weeks long,
right? So
you can have a tournament each. And there's a couple of times where the men and women are at the same place at the same time, but the rest of the time it's 2 different tournaments. The women are somewhere and the men are somewhere else,
right?
And but you have a long lead up. The Australian, you have no lead up. So instead of having one tournament for several weeks in a row, you have several tournaments for 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
So I guess that's sort of where it falls, but it's just too much.
Well, and it's funny, even with all those events, you still didn't have Nadal play, you still don't have Djokovic play, you still have some of the ladies ski. It's like, I don't know. It's. I know they can't move the Australian later. That's what I've heard anyway, with their way their summer is and school being out and all that, but. I don't know. There's got to be something. Make
it like a fiscal year, man. Just start the season in November.
Yeah.
End it in September. Have all of October off in the beginning of September, and then have all of October off in the second half. Well, I guess October 1 could be the top 8.
Right.
And then have all of October off except for the first, a couple of days. And then have maybe the December 1. How about that? December 1.
Right after Thanksgiving.
Right after Thanksgiving, it starts. You skip Christmas. And then, or not. I don't care.
Right.
There's a lot of countries that host tournaments.
Every other sport now is playing on, Christmas.
Yeah, good point. And then you have a lead up at least into the Australian besides this jam-packed nonsense. And then you can leave it where it's at. So change our calendar. Instead of January, have an Australian Open Series, but start it in early December.
Yeah.
And then boom, the Australian. The 2 you have to separate are the French and Wimbledon.
Right.
You got to move the French a little earlier and push, even if it's 1 week on either end.
Right.
Move the French a week earlier, push Wimbledon back a week, whatever. And then have then a series-ish for Wimbledon.
I think to not have, at least 4 weeks of a lead up, and even 4 is short.
None of these tournaments matter. These tournaments feel like preseason again.
Right.
And what we've done is turn the seasons into, by the way, well, you know what? Let's finish talking about that when we come back.
It's time to join the revolution. Go to our website, tennisrevolutionpodcast.com, to get the latest episodes, email us your questions and comments, or give us show ideas.
What I was going to say is I saw a tweet. I was starting to talk about the Grand Slam tournaments, and I saw a tweet that I thought, what a baby. And then I thought, wait a second, I kind of do the same thing. So somebody sent out a tweet saying they wish that people get terminology correct, and that it's not a Grand Slam tournament, it's a major. A Grand Slam is winning all four, which comes from baseball, obviously, where you have the bases loaded and the hitter hits a home run and you score 4 runs. So that's where Grand Slam comes from, because there's 4 tournaments, 4 majors.
Right.
And I was like, "What? Just shut up, dude. Just call them Grand Slam tournaments. Nobody cares." Because there are 4 majors, which I think can make up a Grand Slam schedule.
And I think major was stolen from golf.
Right.
So, I mean, when you say who has the most Grand Slam titles, you're talking about Federer having 20 or what. I mean, that's
right.
You don't say who has the most major titles.
Right, because if he had 20 Grand Slams, that means he got 80 majors.
Yeah,
because he won all 4 in a row. Which, why couldn't he? If Djokovic and Nadal weren't playing, he would.
Exactly. But
why?
Because he's the greatest player in the history of the game.
Exactly.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
So, but I was thinking I'd do the same thing, but it's on a minor scale. One thing that drives me insane, and it's just a small thing, it's like people grinding their teeth. It drives me insane. And that is when people say, so first game, you serve, of course I break you, and now I'm up 1-0.
Right.
What do we do?
Switch, ends.
There we go.
I didn't say sides.
We change ends.
I almost did.
I know you. I was leading you into it, and you could smell the trap. Yes. So we change ends, not switch sides. Switching sides means going from the do side to the add side, or in the reverse.
Ironically, this is getting me fired up, but here's the effing problem with that. Nobody knows the difference when I say, all right, let's change ends. They just stand there, or they switch sides. Or if I say let's switch sides, they change it. Like, they don't understand the difference when I say ends or sides.
So I don't know if you knew this or not, but students are a reflection of their teacher.
I thought you were going to say something even more basic than that, which is when I say, "Oh, how'd the match go?" Well, I won the first game 6-4. I lost the second game, 6-6.
Oh, that's the worst.
That kills me.
That doesn't.
And I try to explain to them, I don't correct them because I'm not a corrector, but I mean, like at that moment.
But you use it correctly,
right? And later, I try to tell them, like, it's wrong, but it's not the fact that it's wrong that bothers me. It's the fact that it makes you look bad when you're explaining it, because it makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah.
Like, I don't care that it's wrong, because people say stuff that's wrong all the time, including us every week.
No way.
But it makes you look bad when you're talking to somebody about it. Like, I used to hear the thing that used to annoy me when people say, we'd say what the score. Somebody would come off a match and, 6-3, 6-3. Oh, you won. No, I lost. Well, then it was 3-6, 3-6. Like, if you say 6-3, 6-3 them, that's fine.
Well, if you and I play, right, exactly.
That doesn't bother me. But to come off and say 6-4, 6-4, and if I ask who won and you say me, well, that's fine.
Right.
But a lot of times they don't.
Right. Right. If you asked me the score, I would say she won 6-4, 6-4.
Right, and that's fine.
Because she beat me, obviously.
Yeah.
Girls are.
Players rubbed off on you from last week.
But I will tell you this, as a tournament director over the years, you're running a site and people are reporting scores to you. You don't want them to do that.
Right.
Because
you're writing 6-4, 6-4.
They're not telling you the score from their perspective. They're giving you the score from the draw sheet's perspective.
Right.
And the draw sheet's going to have the other person's name move forward. So it's always from the winner's point of view, no matter what.
Right.
Nobody cares about what we're saying. But if you're a league player and you're playing a local tournaments, when you report your score to the tournament desk, tell them, if you're Smith and you lost to Jones, tell them Jones won 6-4, 6-4. Don't say, the score was 4-6.
Don't say 4-6. I won, first of all, because we don't know who you are. They love to say that at the tournaments,
First of all, say men's 35s.
Right.
Draw the B draw, line 17.
How did you know about my last tournament?
The line 17, 18.
Right. I was on court 12.
Court 12, that helps too. Give them your court number, and then give them the score. And it's worse when it's a 3-setter because then you have no idea. Because you know they don't know what they're doing. Oh, 6-3, 3-6, 6-3.
Right.
Well, who won? I did.
Yeah.
Oh, so you.
I know.
No way. I lost a sec. Yeah,
That's
they get
terrible.
it all backwards.
Yeah, I don't even let them try. Usually, if I'm the turn, I just say, okay, who won the first set? And I just do it one set at a time because I don't even try. And it's sad because there are a lot of them that get it right, but you don't want to take the risk of them not getting it right.
Well, your draw's all jacked up and everything. It's all, yeah, exactly. And then that doesn't matter to me. That only matters when literally one human being besides the person that played will ever see that score online anywhere ever.
Right.
But they call and say, a week later, by the way, you have the score wrong. It was 6-3, 6-4, not 6-3, 6-3. I know.
That's my favorite.
Although I will say,
I'll get right on that.
I will say nowadays when the kids do that in college, a 7-game loss. So if you win 7 games in a straight set loss, you get credit with UTR. It's a quote unquote competitive match. So
I think even USTA every game counts too. So I mean to me I'm not going to call for one game. If it's 2 games, then I might call. But to me, one game calling is just like whatever. Right. Maybe I didn't remember it right or what. Yeah. It's not worth it. I've had people. Here's worse. The score was 6-3, 6-4. I've had people call. Actually, it was 6-4, 6-3. I'm like, okay, nobody cares. It doesn't matter.
That's even worse. Yeah. Does it matter if you? Which set was? I really want you to know that I served first in the first set. Shut up.
Yes, our tennis pet peeves, a new segment we have in January for you.
Well, we can fill out the whole year. These would drive me insane. Another thing that drove me insane, I saw a tweet from Prince, not the singer. He's not with us anymore.
Right.
But the racket company, and it was some kind of like limited edition or something, Prince/Boast racket. You remember Boast, the clothing company?
No, I don't.
Looks like a little pot leaf on it.
Huh.
Really?
No.
We used to wear. I
wasn't ever stylish.
I don't know that it ever was. We used to wear those in high school. A cheap high school.
They're doing something together.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, well, that makes sense because nobody cares about either of these companies. That's fantastic.
So they've doubled their viewership.
Isn't a negative number times a negative number an even bigger negative number? You're farther away from zero.
They're trying to feed off of the Adidas success, I guess. Get with the clothing company. That was just the best they could get.
Yeah, well, in the clothing company, the best they could get was Prince, I guess. And I'm sad about it. Every time I see a Prince tweet, because I follow them for this reason alone, so I can I almost retweeted at them. Why? I literally just say why, and that's it. Question mark. Get your life together, Prince. Get your life together. We would be more than happy to be the official podcast of Prince Tennis. We would probably still make fun of you, but only as much as it helps you grow as a brand.
Right.
We're going to, if we punch you in the face, eventually you'll learn to duck. So it's helpful for boxing if you punch a guy in the face. Eventually he's going to move.
Right.
So we're going to help you by punching you in your Twitter face, and hopefully that will help you tweet better and think of better ideas. Because, they used to be the number 2 racket in the,
Well, I was going to say, they're not far enough removed. They're not so far removed from success that they couldn't get it back.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah,
because enough people still know what Prince is.
Well, and, here's who they're hanging on to. All right? They're hanging on to the Bryan brothers.
Yeah.
The greatest double team in the history of whatever until Jack Sock. So I'm serious. It's not good. They're hanging on to the Bryan brothers, and who knows? I'm assuming they're going to come back all in because one of them was out, and they want to kind of, you know what I mean? They want to get him back healthy. I don't know which one was out. They're twins, they look like. So we'll see the number one, the best team ever swinging Prince rackets one more time. And then they're also holding on to John Isner. That's it. So,
well, and this is going to sound, even me saying this is still going to sound like an insult, but no offense to either of those 2 players or even those 3 players, but am I basing my racket decision off of either of those 3 players? Like, really, to me, there's only 4 people that are probably influencing rackets, which is Serena, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal. I don't think anybody else, unless I'm just an obscure fan of one guy randomly, I don't know that anybody else is buying a racket just because somebody uses it. Maybe if you're from a country that the player's from, but to me, there's such a small percentage of people.
Right. I would say number one, if you are an all-timer, then it matters what you play with.
Right.
So what Nadal did for Babolat, by the way, that's the correct pronunciation, even though everybody says Babolat.
Yeah.
What he did for Babolat.
And Roddick, though.
You know what? You're right. And Kim Clijsters.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But yeah, I mean, but he continued to enter into a beyond. Are you saying Roddick is at the same level?
Well, when the racket first started, I'm saying he
Fair
was.
enough.
But
Fair enough. Right. So in those cases, but yeah, what does Cilic play with? I don't know.
No clue.
No idea. But if you're from or if he's your favorite player, most likely the reason he is because you're from that country,
right,
or have heritage,
right?
And therefore he's going to be your favorite player. Therefore you're gonna see what he. But yeah, I mean, that should be an indication right there that we're right about this being the weakest era. Because back in the day, I mean, Chang, he played with Prince,
yeah,
and a lot of people play with Prince and wore those awful pump-up Prince tennis shoes because he played with them, and he was not the greatest ever, but he was very popular and one of the top 4 or 5 Americans during his era.
Right.
So I do think that more lower players factored into who was playing with what back then compared to now.
Yeah, maybe because, now we have a lot more information, obviously, about shoes, or any rackets or anything. You can look them up immediately. So you don't need to, like back then, that was pretty much your only indication. You saw tennis rackets, on TV that couple hours a week. You didn't have the option to go online and look up shoes and look up. You just saw he's wearing them, they must be good.
Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, over time, there's been good things about Prince. We used them for team shoes for a couple of years in a row when they had
remember
those Prince T,
and I still love those.
Whatever they're called.
It's T. Back then it was T22. Now they're up to something. But I had a pair of T22s like 2 years ago that were still good.
There you go.
But
that you bought new.
Yeah, that I bought new.
Okay.
And they're still making that series. A lot of people liked their tennis balls for a while. I don't think they caught enough popularity to keep going. I don't think they're making them anymore, but there were things about them that people liked. They bounced higher for whatever reason, so it was good they lasted a little bit longer. But, it's just funny how things like that go in cycles.
I don't know. This doesn't seem like a cycle. It just seems like they've been pushed so far down, and I think they're owned by somebody else now.
Well, now it costs so much money to get back in. Like, they're not going to get one of the big 3 men or Serena. So who are they going to, who can they afford to spend $2 million a year on that they know is going to be popular, that they know is going to be good and popular enough to, drive racket sales? Right. Yeah. I remember we had a Wilson, I did a Wilson convention a couple years ago, and one of the head guys of the company just happened to sit down at our table, and he said, so who do you think we should be investing in? And I distinctly remember, discussions about Bouchard, Raonic, Sock, and it was just... And so, nobody had a clue. We didn't know then who would be good or who wouldn't be good. We were just guessing, based on recent history. And all the players we discussed, none of them became huge. Raonic's probably the closest. Well, he's... But they were listing people that hadn't really committed to one brand, heavily. Right. So they could still be, bought in theory. Right, because they're looking for that bar, that value. They don't want somebody that's 5-year contract from someone who's 17 or 18. Right. Yeah. And back then, so it was more than 2 years. This is probably 6 or 7 years ago when those people were, just becoming famous. But if I'd said Bouchard, he made 3 Grand Slam finals in a row and then has made 0 since. So that would have been a huge, wasted investment. Well, if it's any indication, there's been some all-time racket companies that have gone by the wayside. Donné used to be huge. Right.
They made a movie about a guy, Bjorn Borg, and more than one, and he's the former king of clay, and he played with Danae, and so that was a huge racket. But now it's gone. I mean, I had a couple of Danae rackets. Probably, what year is this? 18. This is probably 5 to 6 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And at one point, they came out with a whole bunch of new rackets. Now, I say came out with. They might have retreated to Europe, sold more heavily in Europe, and then try to get back into the U.S. market. I don't know. But now, I mean, you can't hardly find Danae rackets anywhere, around.
I don't know that I've ever seen one hanging in a pro shop. I'm sure you can get them online.
Well, yeah, of course you can get anything online.
But no, I've never seen them. Well, and it's kind of a similar analogy to what we're talking about with the Pro Tour, is that a lot of these companies, and I even worry about that with Wilson, have so many, eggs in this basket of one player or two players, and when those people are gone, well, then what?
Yeah, but they can easily switch because so many people play with Wilson. It doesn't matter.
Right. The bigger, but I mean, that's what people would have thought about Prince, 15, 20 years ago. They would have thought, oh, well, everybody uses Prince, no big deal. But, when like Nadal and Roddick started using, switching all of a sudden, it just takes one or two people to do it that, maybe it changes everything.
So on Tennis Warehouse, which I think is probably one of the top three, if not number one.
That's probably number one.
I would think. The top three online, tennis gear retailers. Here's the brands they have for rackets. Babolat, Head, Wilson, Prince, Vocal, Yonex. Those are all in bold.
I was about to say that's all they have. I was kind of surprised.
And then they have Dunlop, Prokenix, Technofiber, and Gamma. Gamma?
Wow.
Gamma?
I actually know a guy that he's nationally ranked in like 60s and plays with a Gamma racket.
Of course he does, because they're like 110
it is.
square inches. And
they sponsor him.
If you put the racket on the ground and just drop a tennis ball on it, boom, 8 stories up. It's gone.
Now, I had heard Adidas was making rackets for a while. I guess they've gotten out of it, or at least Tennis Warehouse got out of it.
Who knows? So
no Danae.
No Danae. And Prince, I mean, you're talking about...
Did you say Vocal?
Yeah, Vocal.
Okay, Vocal's on there.
Yonex. I mean, not Yonex. What was it? Yamaha. You remember Yamaha rackets?
Uh-huh.
Now, that's a huge company that makes lots of money making lots of things. Right.
Nike's never gotten into rackets that I'm aware of.
They're out of the golf club business, but they were in it pretty heavy for a while. Oh, Luca Pouille uses Prince. How dare me? Forgot all about him. So yeah, even Tennis Warehouse. So now we'll go to Tennis Express and see what brands they sell.
Tennis Warehouse had no Power Angle rackets?
No.
I've got a friend who has one of those.
Babolat, is that the two-handled?
No, it's diagonally strung.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we got Babolat, Wilson, Head, Vocal, Dunlop, Yonex, Technofiber, Prokenix, Gamma. What? And then they have Genesis rackets. No idea. It's a string company. Pacific rackets.
Okay,
also,
I've heard of those.
They make strings and grip.
Yeah.
Solinco rackets. They started as strings and grip. And they have a whole section for pickleball.
So they've got a little more variety there.
A little bit more. Out of these goofy ones, probably nobody else will sell them in America, so they're like, well, I guess we'll do that. So, yeah, it's weird. I think it's crazy to me. It'd be like if McDonald's was like, 27th in fast food popularity.
Right.
You'd be like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like buying them. Like, we could probably buy it for, 28 cents on the dollar now.
Right.
But then return them to their status as the greatest food chain, not greatest, like good, but
right.
like the wealthiest food chain in the history of the world. That's how I feel about Prince. It's like, who is mismanaging it so bad that they have like 4 rackets now?
Well, and I feel like, and you know this as well as I do, I think most tennis players are are fiercely loyal to their brand, and we know that Prince was, like you said, 1 or 2 at one point.
What do you mean?
Like, meaning once they have a brand,
players, or
I would say even higher level. Once you have a racket you like, you're gonna try pretty hard to keep that brand in your next racket iteration. Like, the first thing you're gonna do is use the new version of that racket before you try anything else. Like, generally, you don't seek out other brands if you're satisfied with the brand you're using, and most people are. That's why they used it to begin with.
Right.
Well, meaning, like, if you're a Wilson 20 years ago, I would say there's probably at least 50% chance, if not more, you're still Wilson.
I'd say higher than that, and I'm an example of that.
Yeah, me
Matter
too.
Matter of fact, I'm using the same racket, the Pro Staff model. No, wait, I'm using the exact same racket, like literally the same one I bought however many years ago.
But meaning, let's say that you decided in 2020 or 2019, as we just started, that you want to try a new racket. Probably the first racket you're going to try is the newest version of Wilson that's the most similar to that
I
one.
won't, because nobody can replace the 6.0 original.
I know.
And I'm furious that they stopped making it still to this day.
But, I mean, generally that's going to be your first course of action, is let me go to the newest version of the same brand.
Oh, for sure.
Even though they all copy each other.
Well, not only do they copy themselves, and they change some gimmick and make some new technology. I mean, we should be colonizing Mars by now, just based on the innovations in the tennis racket industry.
Right.
It seems like every year they have a new innovation. I'm like, really? We can't turn gold, lead into gold by now with all these innovations y'all have?
And it's all these innovations. And it's funny because I string rackets, so I see these innovations, and it's like, well, I wonder what happened to that. Power holes or those rollers. That was another thing.
The rollers, yes.
And the what was it called? The long body. The Prince had the long body with no throat of the racket. It was
that was the mono.
Yeah,
Prince mono.
And so there's all these different little things. Different patterns.
Well, but that was a pretty significant difference.
Yeah, some of them are good and some of them aren't.
Most of them are new compounds. They stick together.
Right.
We're going to try mud and rocks this time. This is a caveman series.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what you can look back in history. And it's funny, you can see the phases, because obviously wood. I wonder if they went through this during the wood era. Oh, we're really into hickory.
Right.
This is the hickory series.
Exactly.
Oh, no, this is the cedar series.
If they didn't, they missed out. They totally
really did.
Could have.
Now, I don't know anything about trees. All right, so if I'm saying trees that would never be used to make a racket, all right, bear with me, okay? I don't care if you're
balsa wood.
Arborist.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
offended all arborists. The arborists are going to be picketing next week.
I certainly probably would have played a lot better with a poplar racket.
If you could pick any term that you didn't think would be used this week's podcast, arborist would have to be high on the list.
Oh, goodness. I bring out one. I think I bring out a word, a decent word you wouldn't expect me to say. Right. Every week.
Yes.
I would almost yeah.
Please don't offend our ardent botanist fan base with your analysis of rackets. Yeah, it's but I mean, they have, what else are they going to do? They have to say that it's something new to get people interested.
So, what I was getting at, so once you started with metals, that's when it started to get kooky, because you started with aluminum.
Right.
I mean, which I guess the only reason that was the first one they started with is because it couldn't be iron. I mean,
right.
It'd be too, I'm not Thor. All right, I couldn't lift an iron racket. Although I think that's the kind of rackets they use on Game of Thrones. So they started with aluminum, but then they started. There was a boron phase. You're too young to remember the boron phase.
I don't think I remember that.
Yeah. And that it's kind of like,
didn't he win Wimbledon?
Yeah, boron. Even nice.
There you go.
That was the Goron phase. And then they had a ceramic phase.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Prince ceramic, yeah.
All of them,
Wilson ceramic, yeah.
Everybody had a ceramic racket. They were all of them were white.
Yeah.
I had a Yamaha that was like a charcoal on the outside. It was almost rough and gray. It looked weird. You had titanium phase. They had titaniums and all that. Call in if you have any other metals, precious metals. Graphite. There was a graphite phase. So the Prince speaking of Prince, the Prince Graphite is one of their all-time rackets. Competed with the 6.0 original, which was Kevlar and graphite.
Yeah.
So it doubled when I was working in the Secret Service. I used it. That didn't work.
And now they're all materials you don't even know. It's like basalt is what Wilson had recently, and I don't even know what it is now. It's like
they went to the base of a volcano.
Yeah, it helps to know
dig up
what the material is for me to get excited about it.
Honestly, are they really using basalt?
Right.
Or did they just... Basalt is a common extrusive igneous rock formed from the rapid cooling of basaltic lava exposed
You knew a lot more than I did.
Or very near the surface of a planet or moon. There you go. I don't know that. That's Wikipedia.
Nice. No, I mean, the fact that you knew it was based on a volcano, that was more than I knew.
Oh, yeah, I did get that right before I brought it up.
Right.
So it's just funny, all these different... and then, like you said, then they start with the engineering,
right.
So you had the larger, Prince had the larger holes, the power holes. Wilson had the rollers,
right?
Which ridiculous,
terrible to string.
Yes, terrible to string. And then let's see, how about the power? Head had those like the hinges, like the two holes.
Yes,
at the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What were those called?
I can't remember. They had the liquid metal rackets.
Liquid metal.
That was,
that was from T2000.
Oh, really? That started that long ago?
No.
I was about to say.
No, not T2000. Terminator 2000.
T1000.
T1000.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. They have to, like I said, what else are they going to do? I mean, they got to make it sound futuristic, I guess.
But that's one thing that drives me insane is that there's nothing really different about these rackets, in my opinion.
No.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of times tennis contracts, they require you to play with a racket that cosmetically looks like the racket,
right?
But you don't. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, and that's why when he said racket technology, we should be on Mars. Like, well, I don't think it's really changed that much. They just changed the names and the style. I don't think the rackets themselves have even changed that much in the last 10 to 15 years. It's really just like you said, different designs, cosmetic.
It's going to drive me insane. It was right after Liquid Metal, I think.
Oh, the hinges.
Oh my God, what was that called? People are yelling at their radios.
I've had to have strung them. I'm sure. I've got a friend who's a stringer. I'm sure he's yelling at us.
By the way, this is a plug, unsolicited. But if you're out there in the world getting your racket strung, for the love of Pete, invest in somebody who's certified to string. Now, you don't have to be a master racket technician. I mean, that's the highest level, I think, of certification really there is. But there is a certified stringer. Minimum.
Yeah.
Go do that because you really can. That's one thing that does make a difference is your racket setup.
Right.
What we've used in the past, we don't always use it because it's a big hit on the old budget there at my college. But we will employ a master racket technician for a lot of reasons. Number one, obviously they have strung a ton of rackets and they know how to string every racket.
Right.
The proper tension and all that. But they also have a vast knowledge of types of string. What goes well with your type of game or your body type or any issues you might be having.
Right.
The other thing that people don't realize it's probably less valued than it should be is they can also tweak rackets themselves structurally and match rackets and things because you'll buy if you go to Tennis Warehouse right now and you buy two of the same exact rackets, you have an option. Some of the rackets have an option that if you buy two at a time, they'll match them.
Okay.
And what they mean by that is they'll make sure that the weighting and the balance are all the same. And you're like, well, wait a second. Isn't that how it should be?
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I don't know anything about physics. I don't know anything about manufacturing. I don't know anything about materials. But you can get, if you just buy two rackets in two separate transactions, so they don't match them, but they came off, even if they came off back to back off the same line,
right? You
get them, you weigh them, you check their balance, head heavy, all that, and you'll be surprised of how different they can be.
Well, and I was going to say, not only that, you're also you're not realizing as you use them how they change. You know, you use one for 2 years and then order the same one of that racket. Well, you've used that one for 2 years. It's going to feel a lot different probably than the one that you just got.
Right. The structure, the not chemical, but the what do you call it? The
composition.
Something.
But I'm amazed how many people will just give me a racket and say, oh, just put whatever in it. What tension? Oh, whatever. And the problem with that's fine. I use my judgment or whatever. But if I'm not keeping up with what you did, then the next time it may be something totally different. And to me, I don't like those kind of variables in my game. I've been stringing my rackets the same exact way with the same string for 10 years because I've got enough variables in the way I play. Give me an opportunity there. But,
brother, don't I know it?
But I don't need another one. I've got enough.
That's funny.
But anyway, I don't know how we got off on all that, but you can tell it's January tennis.
Well, more importantly, we just watch. There's 5 tournaments or something like that going on all at the same time, and I'd still rather talk about, hiring certified stringers.
Well, and it is the new year, which is often when people will start to get into new rackets and look into new rackets coming out. All the companies start releasing stuff.
Well, I guess, but I think it says more about the fact that if these players aren't going to take these matches that seriously, then why should we? Because if nobody plays them, they cram them in.
Right.
Nobody seems to care about these tournaments anymore.
Yeah.
Except for the marquee ones. Obviously, the majors, not Grand Slams. The 4 Grand Slam tournaments, and then, the Monte Carlo types that have, big appeal. Right. Indian Wells, Miami.
But again, why do those have a big appeal? Partly because it's the only one of that week. Like, you've already got several marquee players that didn't play this week.
The biggest one.
Yeah, but they didn't play this week. And so you have a mediocre field to begin with, and then you split that mediocre field into 3 groups, which is even worse. So I think that's a lot to do with it is, having the field separated. If you knew there was one tournament that was the only way you could get points, you're going to play in that one.
Right.
Instead of splitting up.
Well,
the only good thing about it was kind of cool in Australia to see some hometown players that got to play and, win some matches or get to be seen on TV for the first time. But that's going to happen any tournament. You always get wild cards. Even in Master Series, you get wild cards. But it gives you more wild cards with more tournaments.
Well, to me, it's a lot like that last playoff or that last regular season game of football that, the team has already clinched the 1 seed or the bye.
Right.
In other words, they can't go up or down. Their position's locked. So the result of that game means nothing.
And some of them play, some of them don't.
Well, they play. Let's say they're playing that next week in the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
So now they rest everybody or rest key guys. And so to me, am I excited about watching that game? Not really.
Right.
And that's a game that matters. I mean, in the NFL, there's only 16 games, so they're hugely important. And yet, that one's not.
Right.
And if it's not important to them, there's no way it can be important to me.
Well, and you know how big of a Cowboys fan I am. I didn't watch their 16th game. And I was shocked their starters played all the way through because I said that game meant absolutely nothing. And you can say you built confidence, whatever. It's the same with these tournaments. They only say they mean something if they win them. And even then, there's no correlation between the people that win the warm-up tournaments and how they do in the following. Like, almost never does the same person win the lead-up tournament and win the slam. In fact,
So
never get tired of hearing that. But I would say most of the time,
I was tired of it before I even. I had to go find that clip and watch Jimmy Johnson's dumb hair stand on top of a table and Jerry Jones' dumb face, like he, Anyway,
by the way, I love Jimmy Johnson, but isn't he one of the most overrated coaches ever?
I mean, he won 2 Super Bowls and really could have. It seems like that team could have won 4 in a row if he would have stayed. Way to go, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird to give somebody so much credit for 2 seasons.
Right. True.
That's and then he went to Miami a couple years later and did nothing.
Right.
And I guess he had success in college, obviously. So but I'm saying they make it seem like and obviously here he's more, legendary, but I feel like he gets way more credit than a normal coach would. Yeah, well, for winning 2 Super Bowls.
You play to win the game.
And that's what he did. They won the games. But who cares about the Cowboys? They suck and I hate them.
It's not as good as Herm Edwards.
I can see that stupid stadium from my backyard.
I think from NASA they can see it, or from a space shuttle they can see it.
I hate that place.
But No, in terms of these tournaments, it's just not like it doesn't give you anything by winning it. Because like you said, anybody who wins it was already good enough to be ranked or seeded anyway.
Well, if the top, if out of the top 10, less than 50% are playing in a tournament, then what does that tournament mean to anyone? And again, like you're saying, I think then how competitive is that tournament? So
Right.
if you win it, who cares? Show me something in Australia. And that's another fear without our calendar. And now our calendar now starts in the beginning of December. Without our calendar and the proper lead up to the tournament. And again, our calendar would consist of tournaments leading into each Grand Slam.
Right.
That would all coalesce as a series a la U.S. Open, a la mandatory events. And then all those would mean something and mean the same thing. So without that, it just, I don't care. I mean, here's the highlight. Eugenie's back. So maybe she definitely deserved that monetary award from the judge
Right.
Against the USTA. I guess that's, if she has a good season, then maybe all that was legit.
Right.
So she's back. Taylor Townsend, I mean, let me just tell you, doubles. I mean,
This cat can ball, man.
she can play some doubles. I was highly impressed. And that's really about it. Nothing else. I didn't really care about anything else. Nobody played.
Right.
And
Nobody will play this week because it's the week leading into a major.
Exactly. So it's like,
Well, we've talked about this a little bit, but would you be in favor of this being a qualification process?
no.
But I think that's the only reason I say that, and I'm not saying I would
Right,
be,
right,
but that's
right,
the only reason they would play.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, like, when I say qualification, I mean every player that wants to be on Australian has to play, or you don't get in.
So how about,
And win. You have to win something. You don't have to win the tournament, obviously.
well, it seems like that gap between Wimbledon and the U.S. Open is the long, I mean, it's too long. But if you had a Masters on the front end, see, I'd rather have a Masters a week finish a week out. I don't want it leading right up. You know what I
Right.
mean? Which we have. So maybe one Masters, maybe two Masters per series.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, the downside is the way the weeks are, you can't fit a grass Masters,
Right.
even if you had one, because all it takes is changing the structure, the rules, the value of a tournament, and now it's a Masters, and now it matters.
Right.
If you tomorrow said Monte Carlo is now a 150K challenger,
Right.
and some 150K challenger in the middle of Spain somewhere at some small town
Right.
is now a Masters, everybody's going to play in the Spain one.
Right.
Now, that's obviously an extreme because Federer has no reason to go to a challenger.
Right.
But the point being is the Masters, I mean, the Monte Carlo tournament, obviously, its location,
Yeah.
everything that goes
But the
with that.
points are the primary.
Right,
draw.
and then the money.
Yeah.
And so the problem is if the ABCs control the sport, there's too many people that are in charge of the sport. So how do you can't just rule with an iron fist like a FIFA type situation.
Right.
Because I think that would make the difference. And so if we had at least one Masters in each series and then two 500s and one 250. So at least one 250.
Right.
Although I have no problem with 250s being spread out on the same
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
500s, I don't like.
Right.
250s are fine. If you have three 250s stacked up,
Right.
as long as they're sort of spread out, because the reason
Well,
is
that's a build.
yeah.
Now, what do you do that week before the slam?
Well, here's what you would do. I say that you would look at all of those tournaments, and that is your seeding because you have to
Right.
you have to normalize the surface. So now every tournament is on the exact same surface.
So your
same,
seeding should be a lot more accurate.
same coloration, all that kind of stuff. And now every tournament within that series is used for seeding for that Grand Slam.
Right.
And
Which we're only seeding 4, so that should be not
Which
a lot
we're-
easier.
which you're only seeding 4, which
The 4 winners.
give me 8. I'll take 8, seed 8.
Yeah, 8's okay.
And then guess what? everybody wants to be in the top 8 because that's huge.
Right.
And so Federer is going to make sure he plays, but he wouldn't be in the top 8 if he played every single tournament leading up to a tournament because he'd be done. He's an old man.
Yeah. But I think, I think that that's the only way they would play is if there was some continuity in the lead up, because they would want the service to be exact, because that's going to get them used to playing at the Slam coming up, and the location's obviously got to be nearby. But I think there's also got to be some seeding implication, otherwise they're not going to play.
Yeah,
because Federer, I don't care, how good he thinks he is. He wants to be seeded. I guarantee you.
Oh, for sure.
He doesn't want to play.
He doesn't want to play
Djokovic first round,
or in the second, or the third, or the 10th.
So you can't tell me that seeding is not going to entice the top players.
Yeah.
And so you got to say at the very least, you got to play one warm-up tournament to be seeded.
So in a Grand Slam, seed 8, Masters 4, everything below 4.
We're only doing 4 next week for the Australian.
Yes, we
just
are.
To see the extreme.
Which you got to get on.
Yeah.
You've been gallivanting across the country on vacation. I won't tell them what you were doing.
Please don't.
There'll be video, I'm sure. YouTube, heads up. So that would make me care because now it's like a season. It's a mini season. And now it's like, okay, this tournament matters to the end goal, which is that 1/4 of the Grand Slam.
Right.
So this series is 1/4 of the season, but it's also its own encapsulated season as well by itself. And that would also get rid of this crap that Federer is doing where he just skips an entire
right.
Or it would force him to skip the entire French in every tournament leading up to it, which he does, or which he did last year. So
and he's still going to do this year, by the way.
Either you're all in or you're all out.
Right.
And then problem solved. Because if you're all out, no problem. Don't dip in, play a little clay court exhibition, in front of some, royal, whatever, oil tycoons, and then skip everything, then maybe play. Yeah, this would make you all in or all out.
Well, and all the lead-up tournaments would like it because they'd be guaranteed to get top players to come.
Oh, they'd love it.
Right. And the fans, there's no negative to it that I see, and again, I think you still have a process for injured players. If they can't play in the lead-up, they can still get in, but they can't be seeded.
Or if they're coming back from maternity leave. Just kidding.
They can't be seeded, so they're still getting in, but they're not getting in at whatever their ranking is.
Yeah, so, here's where it's got to come from. It's got to come from the ITF. It's got to come from the Grand Slams because they're the ones that really, if they wanted to throw their weight around, they could make changes.
Yeah. Well, they just have to say, make everyone a series, like you said, and say one of our criteria for entrance to the tournament, which I'm sure they already have some, they must have played 2 tournaments ever a series
or something,
whatever the number is, one, at least
or
one.
None,
right? And
if you don't play any, you're going to get in as your directly in because of your ranking,
right?
But you won't be seeded.
Yeah, you get thrown in in the pool randomly,
which would be terrible for whoever had to play them,
right?
But if they were top 4 or top 8 seed anyway, then what's it matter?
Yeah,
So yeah, and if we seed 4, then it really doesn't matter,
right?
So,
when theoretically someone who doesn't play an entire warm-up shouldn't have that high of a ranking anyway. If we have 4 separate seasons of warm-ups, you're skipping one. You skip 25% of the season.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to do that and keep a ranking in the top, 4, top 8.
So, give us the keys. We'll drive. Just listen to this podcast, and we will single-handedly save tennis. Or, on the other hand,
everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
That could be also a possibility. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, but yeah, for those that didn't hear, we will have a simulated draw next week with men's and women's singles, 128 draw with just 4 seeds.
That's true.
And the reason being is you will see how much better of a tournament that would be if they did it that way. Much more compelling earlier. And again, I'm not going to manipulate it or rig it how I want it to be. It's going to be totally random.
You'll do it before the actual draw comes out.
Right.
Even if you don't.
And we'll look at them side by side.
How will they know? We're going to say.
Well, if I do it after, it doesn't matter. I'm still using the same method.
And you're doing it random.
Right.
So, yeah.
But, yeah, we'll look at them side by side, and I guarantee that there will be much more compelling early round matches using our system as opposed to the current system.
Right. That's going to be the highlight of the Australian Open for me, is the comparison of these two draws. Seriously.
Well, and if the top 4 players are the top 4 players, they're going to advance on either system. Doesn't matter.
Theoretically.
Right.
But instead of playing somebody who's a 32nd seed, 3 rounds in, they're going to play them first round. So what? What? What is it? Listen, 32nd seed? Come on. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be there would be so many more compelling primetime matches, which is that's where you build your audience, is those primetime night matches. And nobody wants to watch Federer versus, I can't even think of somebody that's, versus Cecchinato or something, that kind of match.
Right.
That's a first round night match. It's just not, it's Federer. Great. We got to see Federer and he won 1-2-1.
Right.
They'd much rather see Federer.
Would they? I don't know.
Or something.
I don't know. I think we have to do it to find out.
Right.
Because I think ultimately it will bear out you're right.
Yeah.
Over time, that will bear out that you're correct. That if we can look at it and say, all right, we're going to have more action-packed matches per round from the beginning.
Right.
Then that matters and is more compelling and more of a reason to watch the entirety of a tournament than... we'll just hang on because the only competitive matches really guaranteed are going to be in the semis.
Right. Well, I feel like that's kind of where you're at right now. You're watching for either upsets early on, which is the primary reason people watch slams.
That's it. In the
or
rounds.
You're watching for the end, the end matchups of the top 10 players. Well, right now you're going to have the upset option in the beginning because you might have, 1 seed playing a 14 in the first round. So you're going to have upset potential a lot earlier, but you're also still going to have those same matchups at the end with the top players playing each other.
All right, we solved it. We've solved it. I think that's probably enough. We have been on this podcast. I think this is literally a 4-hour podcast. It's ridiculous. A couple things. First of all, the bags are out. I'm going to be at some point. We'll kick it off probably next week's show. We'll kick off the whole tweet contest for these bags. I got to get a picture of them. I got to tweet the picture out, and that's what you'll tweet out. And we'll talk about the rules next week. I'm also in the process of communicating with a certain semi-famous somebody that I may be on court with. Can't reveal those details yet because if it doesn't happen, I'll feel like a sucker. And y'all know I'm not a sucker. So as that moves forward and comes to fruition, we'll talk about that as well. Aside from that, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on sending out, retweeting the episodes, Facebooking, whatever that is. So on Instagram, of course. Please follow us. By all means, follow us. We're still at 117 followers. That's okay. We sort of stalled, but. Instagram's just not as popular. More people are, by a large margin, are on Twitter still. So we've got to change that somehow. But get on over to Instagram, follow Tennis Revolution Pod. You'll never get a picture. Oddly enough, the only place you're going to get a picture from me is on Twitter. Whatever. I don't know how to do these things. I've told you. So do that. Follow us on Instagram for no particular reason. And then get on Twitter. That's where all the action happens. At Tennis Rev Pod on Twitter. Anything I send out, retweet it. Don't wait to see it. You might miss it. It's like way down your feed. You'll never see it. Go to us and then look at and then just retweet out episodes and do all that. If you have any friends. If you don't, I understand. Anything else?
I think that's it.
No corner today? I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside.
I was just going to, bring up the draw thing and the reason why we're doing it and all that, but we talked about it, so that's good.
So we handled the corner.
And I'll have that for next week.
Outstanding. All right, well, yes, I know this was a return to normalcy, which for many, many, many of you, including me, is quite a letdown. But hey, it is. It's what. Listen, our last week's guest is a busy person, and she probably can't come in here very much,
and we're not,
and so we're stuck. So Corey's what we got. So we enjoy it. So
it's like an old familiar sock,
a Jack sock, if you will. I like that, comparing yourself to Jack sock. I'm
the Jack sock of podcasting.
Couldn't think of a better comparison. Really overplayed your ability last year, and this year is going to be a complete letdown.
He's in the tournament. That's all that matters.
That's
right?
something.
He's in the tournament.
Wild card indeed. All right. Well, that's it for this week. And until next time, Thanks for joining the revolution.
Bye, guys.
Eugenie Bouchard.